Hey there, everybody. How you doing? It's Josh, the Renegade Butcher, and I know not in the car. Holy shit! Hi, I see you over there. Backwoods Butcher says first. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. As I've been talking about this week, guys, I've been working to try to get some stuff set up at the house. Pardon me, being a little disoriented, getting all my stuff together. It's not right where I'm used to it in the car, but here I am. I've got sheets and blankets and stuff set up around me because the audio, and I'm sure it still is a little bit echoey because it's a room with bare walls. So I'm gonna do some sound deadening and things like that. For now, I think this will work. Bullshit, Golden Cricket says. Well, I'm not sure bullshit about whether I'm not in the car or whether it's for soundproofing. Really, what it is so you can't see the bodies on the other side. No, I am just loud. I am a very loud person. I can't help it. Even when I try to speak lowly, my voice carries. So especially at the low range, yeah. Look at the guy in a building. I know it's crazy. They actually do have buildings in Texas, believe it or not. Well, here I'll tell you what. Just to make Kyle feel a little bit better, because I know he's missing it already. Let's see what can I do here. Sure, I can do something. Yeah, yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Does that make you feel any better? Where if I do the fake background, does it feel more like at home? Sorry, the dome light was on when I took this picture. I can't really turn that off. I don't have the switch in front of me. The edges are blurry because I don't actually have a green screen. Maybe, guys, I'll set up a green screen if you buy enough spices. I won't leave it on though because it does kind of slow down my computer a bit. It tries really hard to deal with that background, and it's a lot of computing power for it to attempt to keep that going. It has to constantly calculate what isn't the background. So, anyways, guys, oh, there we go. Oh, you were talking to Kyle. Yeah, that's fine too. You can talk shit to Kyle all you want. I do all the time. So we all enjoy it. We all enjoy messing with the old back door. Anyways, hey, we're at episode 58. That means we're 2 episodes away from the big giveaway. Yeah, that's right. The big 50th episode giveaway. It's been about a year that I've been doing this, and I've been consistent until the beginning of this year. We're coming up on episode 50. Man, unless you guys pull some miracles, I haven't looked at the count lately, but I don't think we're going to hit that 1,000 followers by then. But it was a fun goal anyway. We have gained some ground there. I should look while I'm sitting here talking. I want to say made it up to somewhere right around 500, which is actually pretty decent. Let's see if it will show me here. 474. So haven't lost any, that's for sure. But anyways, so I'll still make sure we have some good prizes involved there, though. But we have some lots of projects. Once a pound, throw in. I think it's going to be a pound. Maybe it was 2 pounds. I know at least 1 pound of his GSD blend coffee. So that's ready to go. He's got it ready to ship out and roll whenever we do that giveaway, which should probably be next Tuesday. If I sneak in one extra bonus episode this week, which I do plan to do, most likely be trying to find the day. It may be a Friday thing because every day there's something going on in the evening. I may sneak one in as a late night evening type thing if something's going on. It'll depend on the Nostr Nest schedule too, and do one like that. And then next Tuesday would be episode 50. If not, it'll be shortly thereafter. So we're going to try to make it a big thing. And hey, I want to do the drawing here from the house. So another big creator that's throwing some stuff in. We've got Robin Holstein from the Holstein House podcast. She is, I believe, throwing in a mug or a T-shirt or both. Don't quote me on that, but it may be both. So I'll get with her over the next week, and we will get all that arranged and figure out exactly what we're doing with it. And not at all, not last, I'm sure, and not least, Toolman Tim is going to throw in a year of the Patch of the Month Club. I had some things that he was interested in, some alternate currency. It's these gold backs, paperized or gold infused paper that Sorry, guys, don't know what happened there. But anyways, back to it. The feds got me. No, so Tim was interested in some of these basically gold coated, paper bills that they use in some states. They call them goldbacks. So it's kind of more of a hard currency thing. And he just thought they were cool. So we were working out a trade, and he offered me a half a year of the Patch of the Month Club in exchange for it. And I said, that's great, but man, I'm just never been a patch guy. I said, how about we throw that in as the giveaway for my 50th show, the half century show. And he goes, if we're going to do it as a giveaway, just make it a year. So it works out. Barter opportunity turned into a big bonus prize. That's big, guys. I think that's $100 a year value. So if you don't want to miss it, if you want to get in on that free Patch of the Month Club, a year of that with Toolman Tim. So if you are a creator or you have something cool that you want to share, I know Kyle was talking about potentially working something in there too with some skulls or whatnot. I don't know if he's going to have time. Yeah, he says I'm pretty glitchy, but it's still good. Yeah, there's it's one of those two. It's peak demand time, and it's kind of a holiday week, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but if I blip out a little bit, I blip out a little bit. It happens in the car too. Anyways, let's see here. Oh, hey, Sam. How's it going? We have Sam's back and likes gloves. But anyways, yeah, if you're a creator or you have something cool, if you have an online shop, if you're trying to promote your stuff, this is a good opportunity to get it out in front of some eyes and get it out on my show, because not only are you marketing it to the people who are watching the show live, all of the social media stuff I do surrounding it, all of the podcasts that go out there and they're evergreen, that's going to have your name and your channel and everything out there. So, hey, that's how we cross promote. That's how we grow. If you're interested in getting in on it, you want to give something away, even if it's $10, $15 worth of something, let me know. Let me know. We'll get you worked in, and we'll be sure to include that. So let's see here. What Lisa says. So what kind of bribes are we talking about to get it on your drawing? That's a Josh following OG. You get an invite. Yes, yeah, everybody. I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I thought about doing a pre-show sign-up type thing and email list and all that fun stuff. And I think I may actually go ahead and do that to an extent. I have an email list on the website. So I'll go ahead and say I'm going to do one special prize that is a drawing from specifically people that from today to the 50th episode. So basically a week. If you go and sign up to the email list at renegadebutcher.com, you really can't miss it. Or if you do, scroll all the way to the bottom and there's a place that you can follow me and sign up to the email list. Or there's an option if you create an account. Anyways, I really don't spam it. I don't use it near as much as I should. But if I was ever off social media, it's good to have those contacts. So since I don't promote that much, here's one thing I'll do. Everybody who signs up for the email list between now and then, there will be one prize specifically for that pool. So go check it out, sign up, and that's one way to be in. The other way is to be here live for episode 50, because I want to do the majority of the big prizes to the live audience. I want to see people show up. I want to see people involved. I don't want to just do a random drawing of a bunch of names out of a hat that were probably a bunch of fake email addresses and then have a bunch of prizes that never get given out. I want the value for value and proof of work. If you want the prize, I want you to show up, and we're going to draw from everybody who shows up. We very well may use that StreamYard giveaway tool with the hashtags and stuff, kind of like Brian does on his Friday shows. We'll see if I want to go that route or not. I've got a week to decide. So let's see here. And yep, Sam Coker down here really loves gloves. If you guys didn't know, Sam loves gloves. He's actually kind of a super fan. He shows up to a lot of shows, especially on my Tuesday night lives. He loves to talk about his gloves and ask what gloves I have in the car. I don't have any gloves at home or in the car right now, Sam. And he just seems to really enjoy them. He has a love for the glove. No glove, no love. So give Sam some love, guys, and be sure to tell him all about the gloves that you have. It seems to be something very special to him. Yes, looks like I'm in a cave in Afghanistan. Okay, that's give me a moment here while I'm talking. No, anyways, guys. So I had a question today, though. I had a question from Golden Crickets that's here in the audience, and she was asking, and feel free to chime in on this. hold on here. I want to type this in while I'm sitting here talking. Feel free to chime in on this if I get anything wrong or if you want any additional information on it. But she was basically saying they're going to be processing some sheep soon. Now, while processing these sheep, they'd like to be able to do bone-in cuts, but they don't have a bandsaw, which most people don't have a commercial bandsaw, and I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do not, let's see this here quick, that you don't try to cut it up with like your shop bandsaw. You'll never get it clean. It will never happen. It's impossible. Don't do it. Don't do it. And it will smell like death forever, or you will short out your electronics trying to clean them. So that said, there are a few ways around it. Obviously, doing the mobile side of things, I have had to find some interesting ways around it. And here we go, Robin. I'm going to get you taken care of here just to keep that that vibe going. And there we go. I am in a cave in Afghanistan now, just for you. Anyways, let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I've got to kill that because it makes my screen so glitchy, but it's fun. It's fun to play with. Way too much fun to play with. If you're listening to the audio side of this, I'm changing my virtual backgrounds on my live stream. Anyways, Kyle's wife wants to know what's wrong with us. Okay, so anyway, and I'm sure Kyle will have some input on this as well. And if you do, feel free to jump in there, and I can always add you to the stream towards the end or something here. I just wanted to catch up on what's been going on and talk about that big episode coming up. But yeah, so into the questions though. So as far as doing the bone-in cuts, we were talking about a bit in chat, and I think it was James that suggested using a reciprocating saw, and that would be my first go-to as well, with some caveats and some instructions on how to actually use that properly to not really make a mess. Or he had said using a chainsaw where you just change out the blade or whatnot. First of all, I really would not recommend a chainsaw. I've seen it done. I've experienced the after effects of that being done, and it's generally not good. Now, I will say, if you ever were going to try to split a beef with a chainsaw, get a brand new sharp blade, preferably be an electric chainsaw so you don't have to worry about the smoke and shit being up all in the meat because it will absorb. And I would replace the bar oil. I would brand new, clean, never touched anything else. Have used like vegetable oil or something like that in the bar oil, just something food grade, or a thick mineral oil, something that's not going to poison you. So be very careful when it comes to that. The other thing is a chainsaw, because of its ripping action, basically just shatters the bones. If you split a beef down the back, you have bone chips all throughout the loins. You're going to be picking little pieces, little shards of bones out of ribeyes and things. It's not ideal. It's just too rough for the job. So a reciprocating saw does very well if you have the right blade. I know a lot of folks are very big fans of Diablos, especially the pruning blades. They're great for when you're splitting beef. For me, for the finer cuts, and especially on smaller stuff, there's a Lennox brand that Lowe's carries. I love Diablo blades for 90% of things, but I've never found one that works this well in Diablo. I wish I could, because I have a Home Depot 20 miles from me, and the nearest Lowe's is like 45. So I stock up when I can. And I do try other blades, but I still haven't found a good replacement. Their label is extra sharp. They're a bimetal blade. They're finer toothed. Now, when you get to something small, especially something delicate like goats, sheep, venison, pork, beef as well, but a little bit less so. When you're cutting it, if you're cutting the meat with a reciprocating blade, it's going to make it look terrible. It tears the meat all the way through. So your goal is to only ever cut bone with the blade. You want to go and pre-cut every bit of meat that you can and just open it up to where you're cutting that bone whenever possible. When I split the animal, I typically am doing it from the inside, and do mind you that because this blade has no support and they can flex, that makes it difficult. Kick that thing back at a 45-degree angle while you're splitting it down, and take your time. Gauge each vertebrae as you go, and you'll probably mess it up. It takes practice. Even I have some that get split a little bit off, and I've done it quite a bit. Commercial saws have a bar on them that makes that a little bit less difficult. but it's like a combination of a chainsaw and a reciprocating saw the way it's designed. It's a specialized tool. They're very, very expensive, and I would not recommend anybody try to get one for home use. It's just not worth it. I mean, at my scale, it's not even worth the financial outlay. So that tells you anything. As far as table cuts, like you want to do bone-in chops and things like that, it all can be done with a reciprocating saw. I'm going to link one here in the chat in just a minute. I'm going to get around to some of these comments in just a bit, but before I forget any of these points, I want to do that. Let me find it here. I saved a couple of these links. Yes, I'm going to link an Amazon link, and this is just one example. When it comes to a reciprocating saw, especially for cuts that actually matter, not with the splitting, especially on large animals like bigger pork and beef, I like just my regular old reciprocating saw. With those Lennox extra sharp blades, it does work very well. You can get away with a rougher blade in this part of it. On something like lambs or sheep, a finer blade's probably better because they are so soft. You're just going to rip right through it. And honestly, on pork, I'll use a dull blade when I can because I want to go a little bit slower. This particular model, though, is a single-hand reciprocating saw. You start to see a lot of these. There are some other ones. There is a Lennox brand as well, or it's a Kodiak? Cobalt with a K brand that Lowe's carries as well. That's a corded model. There are cordless. I have a rigid cordless. All the rigid cordless they sell now are a little bit different, but it's been a great saw for me. The nice thing about a lot of these is the weight is distributed. Like the motor a lot of times is behind the hand, or it's got the battery behind the hand. That's the counterbalance. So it's like using a big single hand electric fillet knife. If you ever use like an electric carving knife or an electric fillet knife, it's a lot like using that. It's balanced. It's in one hand. You've got your other hand free to be able to manipulate and move that meat out of the way. Don't cut yourself with a damn blade, and then carefully get in and cut where you need to. And as long as you do all your pre-cuts on the meat, that does work very well, and it is a pretty precision tool. You'll still have to go in and use something to scrape off all the bone dust and everything. We talked a little bit in the chat too about why you may want to remove the paint from the blades before. That's up to you. Just know that that paint's going to wear off on the bone, and it's probably going to stay on the bone. So keep that in mind if you're concerned about consuming paint. There are ways to strip the blades of paint. You can get paintless blades, but those blades usually suck. So that is one model that you could grab. There are a lot of other ones out there. One thing I like about that particular model and the Cobalt one that I have, if you pay attention to the guard around the chuck, the front part where it's got the piston that moves in and out, on a lot of reciprocating saws, it's basically a box with a slot in it, and it keeps you from running the head of that blade where the blade mounts directly up into something. On these, it's just a piece of bent wire that accomplishes that same purpose. So all you've got is a piston that moves in and out that holds the blade and a piece of wire. That's a lot easier to spray down and clean out and hit with a brush and get rid of any extra meat that gets stuck up in there, because it will, absolutely will. You will have meat and fat stuck up in there, and it will be a pain to clean. These are much easier to clean than your regular reciprocating saws. So that is a big check box in the pros side of their equation. Another thing, though, another option when it comes to doing your bone-in cuts, and this is especially viable on things like sheep and goats. Now, it does take a little bit more skill, and you're probably going to mess it up. This is really good for pork. It's doable on beef. Let me grab this link. It's doable on beef, but I can tell you right now, it's a lot more work, and that will be the original old school way of making bone-in cuts, the cleaver. Now, not just any cleaver. Most people have a cleaver that came with your kitchen knife sets, and it's what you would consider a Japanese or Chinese cleaver, which is a broad, long, tall knife that is usually very sharp and very good at chopping. You've got a big surface and allows you to chop a bunch of things, and they're nice. I have a few myself. I enjoy them. They don't have the mass it takes to cleave bone. A cleaver, and a European style cleaver, was designed for cutting bone, for breaking bone in clean, uniform sections. It's basically like a handheld chopping block. You will want a thick, heavy duty cutting board for this, ideally wood. I like to look around. A lot of times you can even go to Walmart and find thick, like end-grained acacia cutting boards for like $20. Those will suffice. Do take care of them. If they dry out, they can split in half on an impact. Ask me how I know. I've got one I need to glue back together. But an old stump will work. Something, a heavy piece of clean wood that you can use, something for it to bite into, because this is not something for the weak of heart. This thing is 3 pounds of steel. It's like swinging a hammer with a fairly sharp edge. And it's the same idea, though. You want to go in with your knife and actually, with precision, cut. This is going to be my next chop. And you're going to take that cleaver and you're going to pop, 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 knock down those bones. It will take practice to be able to actually control that thing. But that's the off-grid version. So that's 2 ways that I have accomplished it without a bandsaw. You can also use a good high-quality butcher's handsaw to do these cuts. If you do that, we had a discussion a few weeks back about some of these handsaws, and the LEM was one that we recommended because you can get alternate blades that are an inch thick, an inch deep, versus the half-inch that you can normally buy off the shelf. And that makes a huge difference, because especially when you're trying to do fine cuts like that, or a lot of cuts, the blade gets weak, starts to turn and wobble, and it's a lot less likely to do that with those deep blades. So I know some folks who have taken old wood saws, fine-toothed, like, regular old board saws, and use those too. Up to you. If you want to clean one up and use it for that, make sure it's nice and sharp. But a saw is a lot more work too. Probably takes a little bit less skill in, as far as a handsaw goes, in actually maintaining that angle and that edge, because it's a slower process, but you will be tired by the time you're done with this animal. I promise you that. Especially if you ever tried it on beef. Just know that. So you'll probably find yourself, after you get through, say, like the loins and stuff, like the pretty chops, finding ways to do more boneless cuts or do work around joints, because it's sometimes the effort isn't really worth the work. So let me go back and catch up on these comments. We have had a ton going on over here. They've been chatty. So let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, Rachel says chainsaws and me only work in horror movie on people. Bacon, yes, they do work. I'll tell you that they work, but they will do a terrible job and make a huge mess. Let's see here. Yes, you had to be there for the human bacon part. Yes, that was a thing. That was a thing. Let's see here. Yeah, it's tough with the sawzall around the chuck on big beef. It is tough with the sawzall. It's doable, but it helps if you have some experience in it too. Let's see here. Roll on down again. And she said, Golden Cricket says she's pretty good with the cleaver. Good. I didn't think about the fact that you've got poultry and whatnot, so you may be using it for that. Now, I will say, you want a heavy, thick-spined cleaver like that one I linked is it's a beast. But if you're good with one, it's worth trying, because you're talking about doing I can't remember if it was sheep or goat, but either one, especially younger, the bones are pretty delicate and soft compared to anything larger. You should have way easier of a time doing bone-in cuts on something like that than you would on something larger, for sure. Kyle needs a better cleaver. Well, you can check out my link if you'd like to, Kyle. No, that is just the one that I have. It is good, though. I do like the Dexter brand one for a heavy cleaver. Now, if you want just a lightweight chopping cleaver, or you're using it for just table work, I wouldn't recommend that. But it does make a hell of a chicken beheader, I'll tell you that. Okay, so what is a good cleaver? Rachel's asking. Well, it depends on your purpose. Depends on what you're trying to do with it. Like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, there's 2 classes of cleavers. There's like the Asian cleavers that are more generally used with like a chef's knife set for chopping. They're usually thin, they're lightweight, they're razor sharp, and they're good for chopping like large bundles of vegetables and big things into uniform pieces. So a butcher's cleaver, though, or a heavy cleaver, what we're talking about here is going to be really end heavy. It's going to have a good, thick, heavy edge with a fairly wide bevel, because it's made more for impacts. It needs to be sharp, but it needs to be able to maintain and hold that edge as it's actually hitting that bone. So it can't be like a 18-degree angle. It's got to be maybe 20, 22. And it's usually thick and heavy. I'm talking like this thing will feel like a hatchet in your hand with a big blade. So that's like I said, that thing's almost 3 pounds. What I've linked. That's what I consider a good bone cleaver. Let's see here. You used to cut up pork now with yours. You probably have what you need then. That would be something I would try. Now, I would still try to line up a saw. I will tell you right now, having especially just a single hand reciprocating saw for some of the bigger work will make your life a lot easier. But if you can get by without it, I'm sure. Yep, that second link I posted is a pretty nice cleaver. And it's not like break the bank nice. You'll see that's the cheapest one I saw right now on Amazon. That's the same cleaver. And I've seen it go for, I think it was about 45, 47. And it's up there through some sellers through like 70, 90. I want to say I paid about $70 for mine. Now, I looked on Amazon and they were about 50 or 60 when I was looking originally. I have a thing when it comes to a knife that's kind of expensive. I don't like to shell out money on it unless I've held it in my hand, because every knife's a little different. Everybody's different. I want to feel it if I'm going to put some money into it. So I actually drove an hour and a half south to a restaurant supply store that had one in stock just to try it. And I think I spent about the same as I would have on Amazon, plus the gas. But to me, it was worth it for the assurance that I knew I can use this, you know. And then, ironically, when I got it, I had a lamb processing coming up that week, and my saw was out. So I was like, screw it, we're getting the cleaver. And it actually did work out good. But yeah, keeping that edge straight, because when you hit that bone, you'll find that you may hit a joint that's going to want to turn. It's kind of like hitting a knot in wood and it wants to turn on you. So just be mindful. Go slow. Don't lose a finger in the process. Let's see here. Little glitchy for you. Yeah, guys, sorry if it's a little glitchy. I'm doing the best I can here with it. Hopefully my internet stays stable. But like I said, it is the busy time. So if I do get slowed down, it's going to be times like that. I also have some downloads going on in the background on another computer. I don't know if that's affecting it, but it's not something I can pause either readily, or I would. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Rich said she used an axe on joints. A small axe or a good hatchet will work too. It's just going to be a lot more unwieldy on like finer cuts, like small bones, especially along the ridge of the backbone. They can get a little bit hinky there too. Let's see here. Kyle uses his for splitting pig heads. Yeah, that's definitely one thing you could use it for. Let's see. Oh, you have a number 7 antique Nicholas Brothers. Oh, I'm not super familiar exactly with Nicholas Brothers. I have heard they're a decent collector's item, though. I'm sure most of those older antique cleavers, they were made to use. Probably last longer than any of us. Yeah, spine on it's more than a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, that's the stuff. That's the stuff. That'll do the job right there. And yes, Kyle, that's a very good point. Using a rubber mallet is helpful, especially if it's a new one. Mine's so old, it's starting to dry rot and fall apart. So I'm tired of picking out rubber pieces when I'm cutting. I need to pick up another $5 Harbor Freight rubber mallet. But what if you actually, like I said, go in and pre-cut all that meat, open up that channel, and you lay that cleaver down there, you can just tap, 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 tap with a rubber mallet on the back and basically work your way through. And that is a great way to, especially on fine spots where you're worried about accuracy. I've cut full bone-in pork loins that way with rubber mallet methods. So very good tip. Robin says hers was a nightmare this morning. As far as the glitchiness, yeah, you know, it can happen. It's like I said, it's coming up on a busy week too. There's a lot of folks who took the week off before the holiday weekend. So I imagine there's probably a lot of people on the internet. School and work just got out. People are probably firing up Netflix and shit. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm just glad to not have to be sitting in the park to do this. So there will probably still be times I do, just because it'll work out time-wise. But it's nice to have the options. It really, really is. Let's see here. Well, hey, we're up to about 30 minutes here. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Rachel says Golden Crickets is being fancy with their antique one, and she's jealous. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with having the old antiques, but I kind of envy that too. So anyways, does anybody else have any other questions for me to cover? Otherwise, I've got the Nostr Nest running live over there too. I was thinking about doing like I did last week as well and open it up for live Q&A. I don't see anybody hanging out over there yet, but I probably hasn't announced it. So I should join that on my phone and let it put out a quick announcement. But anyways, if anybody has a question or a thought or an idea, something they want covered, be sure to toss it out there in the comments. Let's see here. me fire that up over here without it making a bunch of noise on stream. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Should work. It should put out an announcement now. And good, I don't have any feedback. That was what I was worried about. Cool. Oh, Kyle says he's going to jump over there. Cool. I should add that to the stream here. Let's see. Share. Ah, yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And dun, 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 dun. Super high complicated text stuff. There we go. Perfect. 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 All right. And I see Libertree is already joined in. Let me bring you up on stage, bud. I'm going to bring you up on stage. I'm just opening the show up to Q&A right now as we speak. Let me mute my one tab so I know that I don't have any feedback issues. And there we go. So yeah, we are live on the Q&A section with the Nostr Nests. How you doing there, Libertree? Did you have any questions or anything?
No, I was trying to alert you that you weren't streaming to the Nest, and then I realized that you weren't streaming to the Nest till after the main part of the show. So
well, I was, but unfortunately, Nests doesn't alert everybody that the Nest is open. At least not with a Nostr node until at least there's at least 2 people in there. So when I realized that there was nobody else in there, I went ahead just towards the tail end here and joined it on my phone. So it would put out an alert. But the Nest itself is always open with the link. I have it hot linked to my domain on a subdomain. So that way I can always find it.
Awesome. Well, I can hear you now, so I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you looking out.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna start tuning into your Butcher podcast because I would like to start doing that myself in the near future. So definitely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, there's plenty to listen to. Everything that I've every one of these Q&A episodes and stuff like that I've done, I usually record them and then I'll put them out on the audio side of the podcast too. And I've been like right now, we're still streaming over on YouTube. I'm just copying the Nest over and letting that stream in the background as we go.
Cool, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Loving it.
Yep. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Let's see. We've got a couple of questions over here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So Golden Crickets was saying that she's looking for what mallet would you use when doing chopping and whatnot as far as with a cleaver, like a rubber mallet, like a heavy rubber mallet that you use. You can buy them at like a Harbor Freight or wherever, any hardware store. And the nice thing about that is it's not going to, you don't want a metal mallet. Because it's going to, bang up the back of your cleaver. A rubber mallet or a wooden mallet would actually work out just fine as well. But something that's going to have a little bit of give to it. You should be able to find a rubber mallet anywhere. Let's see here. Lisa says she wanted to watch the latest critter video and hadn't gotten around to it. Yeah, Lisa, he skipped the sheep this week because he was just kind of burnt out. So I gave him these easy button, and we actually covered whitetail deer. That was an interesting discussion though. Let's see here. The girls are arguing over who's the coolest with their coolest cleavers. All right, let's see. Who else do we got over here? Hey, Backwoods is here. All right. Hey, man. What's up? You sound excited.
What's going on?
Well, just, you just saw me for the last half an hour. You know what's going on. Running a podcast. That's what's going on.
I'm aware.
Oh, shit.
For some reason, this angle is creepier because you have to lean in to see your computer.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're just like,
that is the hardest part. That's the hardest part. I'm so used to it sitting right a foot from my chest on this mount on the steering wheel. And so everything is so far away now. I'm like, do I need glasses so I can see my fucking computer? I wanted to hook it up to I have a big 22-inch monitor over here that I've had for years. But it uses the old school VGA cables and shit. Now everything's HDMI on these new fucking laptops. So I'm like, I can't even hook it up. Shit.
I'm sure you can get an adapter or something.
I probably can. I'm using it right now on an old laptop to install some server shit on the side just because I've got the stuff sitting around rotting. So I'm like, hey, I have internet now. Let me play with it.
There you go.
Oh, so what were you doing today? Cutting some beef? Doing some packaging?
Yep. I cut up that whole, what was it? It was Hereford Charlet, I think, cross. It was a big beef, but I got it done today. So I got them picking up on Thursday because the farmer's going to help me medicate my cows and castrate one of the small bulls I've got. So Thursday will be fun.
Should be fun. Yeah. Ooh, so you got to get in there and do a little clip.
Yeah, I banned.
Nah, I don't blame you.
It's just easier.
Yeah. Well, how old is he?
He is 6 months, maybe 7.
Yeah.
He's not huge.
No,
and
he's still
super friendly, so we'll be able to corner him fast enough.
Right, but it's still a little bit of a fight.
The other one I'm not looking forward to. More than likely, I'm going to have to rope it in multiple spots.
Oh, boy.
Like get it around the horns and get it around the back legs.
Sounds like a party.
But, yeah, because he's over a year now, and he's Hereford Holstein, and he's got that Holstein height.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, he had a growth spurt. When I just looked at him the other day, I was like, I have to give you injections. Shit.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you have to get multiple ropes on me to either get a needle in my arm or cut my balls off. So I understand.
Right. No, I get it. I completely understand. But like originally I was like, oh, he's still small enough. I can probably just like get my arms around his horns and like either put him to the ground or just hold him. And then all of a sudden he walked next to me the other day and I was like, no way in hell.
Yeah.
I'm grabbing on your head.
Hey, Lisa's over here. Lisa's asking over here, what's the critter this week, Kyle?
I actually think Aaron from Two Chicks Homestead is going to be coming on. I think we're gonna finalize that later this week. But
so
we're gonna be talking about rabbits.
Nice.
Yeah. Lisa, I will do sheep. I know. I'm sorry. I did no prep, and I just texted Josh, and I'm like, "So, what animal do you want to talk about tonight?"
He's like, "Can you come on my show?" And I'm like, "I probably can. Do you need me on your show?" And he's like, "Yeah, I kind of do. I have no prep, and my brain hurts." And I'm like, "Okay, let me try to give you a hard one."
Right. No, I think when I texted you, I had just finished a conversation with my 4-year-old trying to explain why water was wet.
That sounds about right.
Right.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So mentally, I was just like, I can't do research on something tonight.
Well, hey, Bella, welcome to the stage. And if you got any questions, feel free to unmute and just fire them off. We're in like the Q&A section of the podcast here, so we're just kind of chatting. Well, yeah, no, if anybody's got any questions, fire them off. That's what I kind of like about these Nostr Nests. It's a little more relaxed format. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover before I do wrap it up, though. Let's see. Talked about the big episode coming up next Tuesday and the giveaway there. Talked about me setting up shit at the house. Let's see here. Still got seasoning stuff going on, guys. Be sure to check that out. That's all live and ready to go. Just added a button over there on renegadebutcher.com that you can actually zap me on Nostr from my website now. That's cool. That was a little before the show. I figured out how to do that.
Nice.
Yeah. I saw somebody else doing it. And I was like, now I have to know how.
Right. Yeah, I still get on here and I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing. And then I'm like, and then I hear you guys talk. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, just wait. We still got to get you set up with a web page. You already got a podcast and all this stuff going on. You need like a place to point people.
I know. I know. One more thing.
I know. At least it's not like me and I'm like, oh, web stuff. That means 16 more things because I can never pick one project at a time. I end up down like 6 rabbit holes at one time, and then 2 or 3 of them I actually maybe will finish or get somewhere presentable.
Right. Yeah, every time I think about doing something like that, I then just look at something like around. Like I walked out today and one of my tractor tires is starting to go flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can't mentally think about also doing a web page when I have to deal with this now.
Hey, Lisa's asking Kyle, what was that big beef that you were showing off? Was that a steer or a big heifer?
Oh, that was a big heifer.
Okay.
Yeah, the farmer thought it was a steer. She buys beef sometimes off another local farm.
Yep.
And yeah, all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, that's a heifer." Jesus.
She was just
But no,
big
she was
boned.
big. She
was just big boned.
She was big boned. No, it was a gorgeous beef. Absolutely gorgeous. Great marbling.
Yeah. Looked good.
Yeah, it was really nice. Those chuck roasts were awesome.
Yeah, I think you posted a picture of those. I believe I saw them. Yeah.
Yeah, those were in the Telegram chat.
Oh,
but it just had good fat cover.
Oh, I got to bust your balls a little bit, Kyle, and you don't have to go into full details if you want to, but I think you learned a hard lesson today. I don't know if you
I sure did,
or not today, but this week. Oh, you had a rough one. Yeah, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it?
It was yesterday.
Oh man, I want to trigger your PTSD about this or anything.
But, no, it is what it is. I have to accept. I have to accept my fuck ups. I lost an entire batch of bellies that were going to be smoked for bacon.
And by entire batch, he means like a lot.
Eight to, I think it was 8 bellies. 8 bellies total.
Yeah.
And I forgot to weigh them down. So I even said it in the video I did on the brining. Like, I went back and listened, and at the end of that, I go, I'm going to swing back around and put a plate on these to weigh them down so they're all in the brine and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you stupid son of a bitch.
Didn't do it.
Yeah, but it's one of those live and learn situations. I was pretty bummed about it yesterday, and ended up talking to all the people it was going to, and they all kind of understood that I had no idea. Like, I had never smoked bacon before, so I was like, I'll do it for free. But
stuff happens. That's how you learn.
And they were great. One of them's already planning on getting another pig from us this year.
Right.
So,
yep,
it is what it is.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, that's an important thing to remember. If you're doing a wet brine, especially if you're going over a length of time, because pork can spoil pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's all in the brine. So, and because it's fatty, it will float. So if you don't put something on it to weigh it down, and some of that stays out and not in contact with air, that part's going to turn, and that very well could turn the whole bucket.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, because in some of them, whatever was under the brine looked perfectly fine, and it was just whatever was out of the brine.
For the brine, yeah.
And then there were others that it turned the whole bucket, and you know that like pork jello, pork does something if it turns water into like, it looks like slime.
It's like it does. It's like a snot. It's like it releases proteins from the meat in some weird way that starts to gelatinize it. Yeah. It is. It's weird. It's nasty. And
so
it's like Brian's St. Bernard slobber, but like a bucket of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But what I will say, I was so angry that I got that beef that they dropped off that I slaughtered yesterday done in like 45 minutes. Like, I just breezed right through it.
Oh, and Lisa says that in regards to that cow, she seemed like she had the extra fat that the girls get. Yeah. And then Robin Holstein says she wishes she could lose her belly. Golden Crickets asks, what are the grossest critters that we have butchered? Oh man, you take that one, man. Go. What's the grossest one you've ever had to do?
I don't even know. I've blocked so many out.
Well, it depends on what you mean by gross too. Like gross, like it was physically a nasty animal, or gross as in like it was sick, or gross as in like I just don't like this job.
Steve, what I immediately go to is when I worked at the USDA plant, we had this farm that, as like a side hustle, they would because they had another successful like agricultural business. I'll put it that way.
Right.
More equestrian, but on the side they would buy old milkers at auction.
They were flipping
and just put them out on pasture for a season.
Yep.
So you take an animal that's just had food shoved in its face in its entire life and just put it out on a field.
Mm-hmm.
And these things were so nasty, not an ounce of fat on them.
Yep.
And so that like sinew just like shrink wraps the meat, and it is the nastiest thing to cut.
It's like cutting a tough old deer if it was 10 times the size.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's awful. And we did a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but also
they're really almost good for ground, honestly.
That's it. And these were being sold as grass-fed or grass-finished.
But even if you grind them, you still got to debone them. You still got to go through and trim them up.
Oh,
you still got to do the work. So
this was the only farm that I ever saw that we literally like threw whole carcasses like from the slaughter floor into the rendering.
Jeez.
And the USDA was like, "Yep, no, it can go in the cooler." My boss was like, "There's no fucking way in hell this is going in my cooler."
Nice.
Like,
at least
there's no way.
At least he had standards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Grossest one.
Like, they're almost slimy.
Yeah.
Like it's
I've had a few that were just too far gone or whatnot. I expected there to be something going on when somebody calls me because they want help and they've got a downed animal and they're just trying to see if they can salvage it. And I'll talk to them and I'll pretty much know it's a lost cause before I even get there.
Yeah.
But usually, a lot of times they'll even want me to just come out and put it down just because they want somebody experienced so the thing doesn't suffer. So anyway, and I was like, well, if I've got to come do it, if I've got to come pull the trigger, you're going to pay for my travel and for a kill fee, but if you're okay with that, help them do it, and I mean, I can look, but I'm like, if I get in and I start skinning the thing, you're paying for my time, if we get halfway through this thing and you decide, no, or if I'm telling you, you don't want to eat this and you decide not to, I still did the work. So I have to be clear on that. But probably the worst, which says something, was the place that I quit before I started up my own business and started doing what I'm doing now. It was that last carcass, that last beef. Yeah. There was a guy that was bringing him some stuff. I've told the story a little bit before, but he was basically just buying everything from the sale barn that he could get cheap. And a lot of them, of course, had problems. And he was flipping cows. Basically, he was doing this as a business. He had a bunch of different processors he took stuff to all over this side of Texas. And somehow he had it worked out with my boss, I think. They just had a thing going that he knew he could bring shit to us that other places wouldn't take because they were worried about getting shut down. But my boss was too retarded to realize that you're playing a really crappy game there. And so we'd have, on this particular day, we had so many cows show up that I actually kept them apart because they're all the same guy's name on the ticket. And I knew he was selling this beef. Like, he had people that they was his cow. So when I'm sitting there putting this stuff on the cut sheet, I had to tell them apart by what was wrong with them. There was like the one with the bad eye and the one with the limp and the one with an abscess and the one that couldn't breathe right. And this particular one was the bloated one. And I knew it was going to be a good day when my boss met me at the door and he's like, "You better kill these cows before they die." I was like, "You have to be fucking with me." No, they were all that close. Now I was already pissed. I'm like, I'm about to walk out at this point. But I get to this one and this thing was so bloated. I mean, I'm talking, you remember the old Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Willy Wonka, the girl that ate the blueberry and blew up like a freaking ball. Yeah, it was like that as a cow. It was sad. It's like, what the hell is going on with this thing? So I got her killed, and you could smell when I bled her that she was septic. Her breath was septic. Put her down, got her up on the hoist, got her skinned as carefully as I could because I felt like I was going to pop a balloon. And then I started gutting. And for the first time in my entire career slaughtering animals, I went outside and threw up from the smell. This animal was so septic that it had pus running through the meat, like all not through the belly, but up between like the ribs and the meat. It was just all bad. And I was basically told to trim it up and cool it down, see how it looks in the morning. And I trimmed everything I could find visibly, but I was hot, and I sat up all night thinking about it. And I finally made up my mind I'm not doing the shit anymore. So I pretty much knew I was quitting when I walked in that day. And I went up and told him basically, I'm like, it's either me or that carcass. One of us goes, because you shouldn't feed that to a damn dog, but you're not feeding it to somebody's kids. And nobody who's getting that, I promise you, is going to know that that's the state that meat was in. They're not making an educated choice, and you damn well know it's not right. So I don't care who loses money in this. We should have never taken that animal, and it doesn't leave here, or I do. And they farted around with me. They just said, no, we'll have the inspector look at it. We'll have her talk to you. You can go in there and show her everything that you did. We'll let the expert decide. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. The inspector that comes in and learns things from me. But that's great. I'd love to talk to the inspector about this situation. And she came and went, and they talked to her privately. I asked about it multiple times, and they lied to my face. So I clocked out, and never came back. But it was a sticking point, and I'm very glad that I found out later on, about a week later, from a coworker that had stuck around, that whole animal did end up in the rendering eventually, because everybody else who was cutting it pretty much said, no, we're putting our foot down. We're not doing this.
Yeah, that sucks. And it's crazy that people bring those animals in, and it's like to a person. It's like, no, like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, that's the problem. Like, there are people out there who don't give a fuck about anything but money, which burns me. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate fucking money. I don't hate making money. I think we're all here that we have to. But when it starts getting in the way of like moral decisions, I mean, I always tell people when they're getting into this, if they're new to this, and I was like, never ever forget that you are handling people's food. And the day that you stop taking that seriously is the day you should put away your knives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You are responsible for the stuff that people eat, which is why I will reject animals that people will bring me during deer season too, because I'm like, I'm not going to have any part of being responsible for anybody putting that in their mouth. I can't undo what you fucked up already. I don't care how mad you'll be at me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Deer season, I'm pretty strict about that.
And you have to be, because so many people don't know. But the sad part was this guy knew, and my bosses knew. But it's one of them.
Right.
Profit got in the way of principle. So, and they didn't. The sad part is they didn't start out that way, or at least that wasn't the story originally. But things changed. They got busy. It started to become profitable, and there we go. Hey, Libertree's got his hands up.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hey man, kind of on the subject of not good meat or not good carcasses and deer. I live in Florida. Come across dead deer on the side of the road. I know some people pick them up and take them home and eat them. What is the rule on that, and what is the time frame on that as far as the meat being spoiled or not safe anymore?
It depends.
You want to take it, or do you want me to?
I'll touch on it a bit, and then you follow up. But no, it does depend. It really does. First thing you want to know, and I'm not one to sit around and ask permission, but do understand what's legal in your state and what they expect, because you can get some pretty heavy fines getting caught picking up roadkill if it's not allowed. In Texas, it's strictly not allowed to pick up deer, even if you hit it. You have to basically have permission from the game board. Now, if he's cool, he may just say, shit, you got an extra deer ticket, go ahead and use it. Or he may just let you have it. Or he may take it and put it in his vehicle and give it to his buddy just to piss you off. You never know. But I've seen it happen. But don't get yourself in trouble, because they can hit you with somebody. They can pretty much hit you with a poaching ticket, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Climate-wise, though, you're in a hot climate. So the clock is ticking. You don't have long. The other thing is, what happened to that meat right before you got it? It's hit by the car. Was it just hit in the head and knocked down? Was it hitting the guts? And is there a chance that you've got stomach or intestines that are broken and you've got septic meat on the inside. If that's the case, you've already got a lot spoiled. That's pretty much going to be a loss. You're probably only going to be able to get like front shoulders, maybe get the back straps partially, and perhaps you'll be lucky enough to get some hindquarters off of it. But sitting in the sun, sitting in that hot, humid weather in Florida, man, I wouldn't, unless something is still warm to the touch, not like because it's been sitting in the sun on the side of the road, but like still you can tell this thing was hit very recently. Like ideally you saw it. I probably wouldn't mess with it because by the time you get it loaded and you get it home and you get it processed, you're already probably looking at 3-4 hours that meat's been sitting in a warm environment, probably stressed already. So be careful with that. If you were in a cold area, if you were somewhere where there's actually snow and ice and shit on the ground, which is typically when you're going to see deer moving and you're going to hit them, you have a lot more leniency, a lot more window there. But I'm in Texas, so kind of the same thing. I have a feeling that's part of why they're so hardline on it is that, there's a big risk of getting sick from roadkill in a hot climate. So, Kyle, you got anything on that?
I agree with everything you said for sure. As someone who picks up I'd probably say at this point, a decent amount of roadkill I've picked up. My children have eaten roadkill quite a bit, but no, I agree with you. Like I'm at the point now where I don't pick up deer unless I saw them get hit, I hit them, or it's one of those situations where it's like I ran to the store, there wasn't a dead deer there. And on my way back a half hour later, there is a dead deer.
You have a definitive timeline. Like you exactly. Pretty well know that it happened within a certain window of time. Yeah.
But I was doing it so much at one point that I called it the gamble. Like that's just what I called it. Because it's like you can get some and they're fine.
Right.
But then you can get others and it's like just a hot mess that you got to drag out in the woods.
Right. Like, and then you're just pissed because you wasted all your time on it. But see, the other important thing is like we can give you rules of thumb and ideas and stuff when it comes to this, but I can't tell you anything definitively. What you do have to do is be able to trust your own senses, and I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. But every single human, if you're not used to it, all right. But every single human, I trust me. You know when you smell or feel bad meat, just like people worry about what if this egg's bad. You'll know when you crack it. Like you'll know if you walk up to a carcass, if you walk up to a carcass and put your hand on the stomach and like give it a gentle push and it bounces right back, just walk away. Yep, it's starting to blow. Yep.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
I would also like grab a leg and start to move it. If it's already stiffened up, it's gone into rigor mortis. You know that thing's been down for at least a half an hour, probably closer to an hour, and you're kind of in danger zone. It happens pretty quick for them to start stiffening up, but it's usually, in my experience, unless they're frozen solid by that point already, it's usually within about an hour mark that they start to go stiff.
I will say, though, for me, it's different because we're frozen half the year.
Right.
So I've definitely picked up some that were older, but it was also 10 degrees out that night.
Well, yeah, if it's 10 degrees overnight, somebody hit it in the middle of the night, and you go out and it's still 35 degrees, in the sun, that thing was frozen, So, yeah, no.
Yeah. And so the majority of the time up here, you have the right to, if you hit a deer, you can take it home. Right. Like 99.9% of the time. Like the cop will just give you a nuisance tag. Right. Like, yeah, here you go, roadkill tag.
Now, I know
I probably have 3 of them sitting in my truck.
In Iowa, they wouldn't let you but you could get game board permission. There was also you could sign up with the local DNR to be on a call list to go pick up roadkill deer if somebody did hit one.
I'm on 3 currently.
Yeah. They are just really hard line on outlawing any kind of deer roadkill type whatever consumption at all in Texas. And I think a lot of it is the culture, because we have a ton of rednecks that not only will take their big jacked up trucks with huge cattle guards on them and go out and hit deer in pastures just to hit them so they can eat them. They already do. So they don't even want to make a legal way for that to happen.
Right.
It's one of them. You're out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. You haven't seen another car for 3 miles, which is a lot of times driving around in Texas, and you happen to hit a deer. Nobody's around to see it. So I think they want to make their job easier for themselves and just say it's always illegal. So if they see you with a deer in the back of your truck in the middle of June, you're getting a ticket no matter what.
Yeah. This is a pretty good story, actually. I was on my way into work. So at the USDA facility I worked at, I was an hour away, like from the house to get there. And it was like January, and it was one of those 2 weeks where it was like, 10 degrees out, and it's 6 a.m. and I'm driving into work, and there's just this. It was probably a yearling, like it was small, but it was just dead in the middle of this house I drive past every day's driveway, and I'm like, I know for a fact they have not seen this deer, and they are not going to do anything with it. So I fucking pulled over, ran in the driveway real quick, and just dragged the deer out. And as I'm doing it, one of my coworkers drives by and just goes, "What the fuck?"
This redneck.
I threw it in the bed of my truck, covered it in snow, and
went to work.
And it was
frozen.
I think the high was like 20 that day, so I wasn't too worried about it.
It's going to be a block the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was a fun one to skin.
I bet it was. Yeah, I hate frozen deer as far as skinning. Let's see. Lisa asked over here, is there any difference in the grass-fed carcass versus the grain-fed carcass? Yes, Kyle, I want you to hit that one.
Yes. Okay. So it is different where you live, for sure, in my opinion. I don't know. This is such a hard one to get into. Yeah, you're going to have more fat on a grain-fed carcass. Yes. That's just what it is. Like, it's added calories that the cow doesn't really need. That's just going to go straight into fat, which I don't hate. Like, I grain my cows, but I'm not free choice, like 50 pounds a day. I think I put 3 or 4 scoops for 3 cows, like a day, just to give them that a little extra boost, a little extra calories. Like, I like marbling, I like fat. So, and this is the first time I've ever been at a point where I'm like, okay, I have a baseline now. Now I can start experimenting with how I want the meat to look finished.
Right. There is a difference in the fat itself too, whether they've been primarily grain or primarily
I'm going for more intermuscular. Like, I don't want them to just have like a 3-inch fat cap. I want it to be like they've been getting consistent extra calories for a long period of time and put weight on, but put weight on in a healthy way.
Right.
Down your way, you can probably get away with some really decent looking grass-fed beef. I've seen some good stuff up here, but
it's still doing it on hard mode. As far as if your goal is to go for heavy marbling like we're used to seeing with like a prime steak in the store, it's harder. It's a lot harder on pasture raised. The main reason for that is because, like you said, it's an excess of calories. They can get that from just pasture, but they've got to work for it, and that pasture's got to keep up with the cows grazing and the cows' growth. So they have to be lightly stocked and with excess lush green sugary grass, like that very good thick coastal style grass that we get down here. This area is perfect for it for guys who actually want to do it down here in Southeast Texas. But a lot of Texas, especially the drier areas, aren't. Your pasture, or the last couple of years with droughts, it's hard on it. We had a lot of bare pastures because we didn't have enough rain. So you've got to have all the climactic stuff that comes into a lot of guys who are dedicated pasture only. Were graining their cows because it was that or kill them this last couple of years. They didn't have a choice, and their feed bill was ridiculously high. I mean, it cost them 3 times more than usual. They're buying hay too. And, but they were doing what they could to try to keep floating. So it gets rough. But I like a combination of both. Overall, myself, like I love a good grain finished steak. but I can appreciate some of the other health benefits that come from the different omega balance and the more grass fed. So I like
absolutely.
seeing a cow that spends the majority of its time on pasture, lives, and gets them like the vast majority of its calories and nutrients from that pasture, but extra grain isn't going to hurt it. That said, it's
Well,
the same.
that's
I'm the same way with pigs. Like I'm not afraid to give corn to my pigs,
no.
but I don't want that. I don't want something that's lived on a sack of freaking deer corn its whole life. It's not going to be anything but just hard white fat. I want
Right.
a good balance there. So, Liberty,
And
you got your hand
I'll
up
add
again.
soy meal. I'll add some soy meal every now and then. I don't do it all the time, but
Right.
especially if I'm finishing pigs,
I'm
I'll
not
toss
a
in like
big
a
fan of the
ratio of
soy
soy
meal,
in
just
that.
because I'm not super paranoid about it. I know I don't want a lot of the stuff that's in soy to make it into the meat, but I do know when I switched off of a feed that was, I used to raise quail, and they have ridiculously high protein requirements, like game bird feed. It's like turkeys, but like they're like baby turkeys their whole life.
Right.
So the game bird feed, of course, tends to rely on soy protein because it's easier to get high protein in it. When I switched them off of that to something that was primarily peanut meal, their whole attitude changed. They stopped being moody little bitches and stopped attacking me when I fed them, and their food seemed to go further. They seemed more satisfied. They just seemed happier and more chill. They started laying better. Their colors like popped, and I'm like, huh. So I'm like, yeah, maybe there's something to it. I'm not going to say it's like all the soy is evil, but I try to avoid it when it's a main ingredient.
No, and I get it, and I don't know. I do agree, but again, it's
you do what you can too. You also do what you can and what you can afford to do. That's the thing. There's the perfect world solution, and then there's the whole letting the good be the enemy of the perfect, or the perfect enemy of the good. The other way around. Yeah. Anyway, Liberty, you got your hand up, man. What you got?
Yeah, change the subject if you don't mind.
You're good.
How long could a family of 4 live off of an entire cow?
Ooh. Depends on how
That's
much they like
question.
to eat beef and how big of a cow.
Well,
but
the reason I ask is because I'm on the carnivore diet, and I know it'd be cheaper if I processed my own meat in some form or fashion. I've got some land out in the country my parents own. I could raise my own, and I'm just trying to get an idea of whether it's worth it. So and I don't mean eating steak every day. I just mean 3 or 4 times
just
a week.
in general, overall.
Yeah.
I would say a good rule of thumb, and this is a very wide topic, but I think a good rule of thumb is probably the average family of 4 would consume about 1 beef per year.
Yeah,
if they all are meat eaters. Now, if 1 or 2 of those people are heavy meat eaters, as in carnivore, and that's the majority of what you're eating, you may go a little heavier than that. And like I said, it depends. If you're raising them at home and you've got something that finishes out at, you got 300-pound carcass weight versus, we're comparing it to somebody with like an 800-pound hanging weight, big, heavy beef. There's a lot. It's a very broad scale, but I think rule of thumb would be about 1 a year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it would also depend on your cuts as well.
True.
Because everyone gets so scared of the cut sheets that they just end up picking stuff that they're not going to eat because they don't know.
There is that too. You want to make sure you actually are going to eat all the cuts that you can.
There's always like, there's always like tip steaks left and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't know what to do with this.
I always get the folks that complain because they eat through all the steaks first, and then they're like, "Yeah, we're eating roast and we like roast, but we usually just like them for Sunday dinner. But man, we've been eating hamburger forever. We want to do another cow so we can get more steaks." And I'm like, why did you eat all of the good stuff first, and then you leave yourself with all the stuff that you don't want at the end?
Right.
Because hamburger's great. You can do it for anything, but spread it out.
I'm already almost all the way through the half a cow I put in. Shit, when did I do that? This winter. But I was I should have just did the whole thing. I ended up selling the other half. But I've got a ton of burger left.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So, I always try to tell people, I'm like, dude, you've got 7 days a week. Try to make burger like at least 4 of those. Like if you can, because it's flexible. You can do tacos one night and spaghetti another night and meatloaf and things like that. Cook some hamburgers. Make it interesting. But then,
Oh, and
do
listen,
a
it's
roast
completely
once a week, do some stew, do some chili, but then do steak like 1 or 2 nights a week. And then it'll last throughout your experience of eating a cow. But if you eat all the prime pricey cuts, you're left with all the bottom end stuff. You went and you ate at the steakhouse until you ran out of steak, and then you're shopping at Aldi's for the rest of your time on this cow, and it's your own fault.
Exactly. Well, it's my fault. I mean, like I said, I've probably got
but everybody
hundreds
does
of pounds,
I do
multiple like species in my freezer.
Right.
I'm having frozen pizza tonight. Like,
yeah, I'm guilty of that too. Be like, hey, look, I've got venison, I've got pork, I've got all this stuff in here that I could cook and use, and it's amazing. What's for dinner tonight? Ramen noodles with leftover ham and some cheddar cheese I found in the bottom of the fridge.
Exactly.
Because it's easy and I'm tired and I don't want to think.
There's no way I'm coming in after cutting a beef for the last 8 hours.
And you're like sounds like time to cook picanha.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no. DiGiorno, take me home.
Exactly. That's why I love having that little between the air fryer and the smoker. When I'm working at the shop, I've always got meat around. I try to make sure I eat a heavy lunch that I cook while I work, because it's a lot easier to figure out how to cook some shit while you're already working with food, and kind of work that into routine, and then the cleanup's all the same at the end. Because by the time I'm done at the end of the day, I'm out. I'm done. If I'm not full when I go home, I'm just either not going to eat or I'm going to eat junk. Right. I know that about myself.
Yeah. I actually made a super good garbage meal the other night out of whatever was in the fridge. I was
Sometimes
I'm just gonna throw something together. And I had this pretty well marbled strip steak, more towards the sirloin end. I had pulled it out of the freezer and it was I needed to cook it then, or it was gonna go. And I cut up half an onion and 2 bell peppers, sauteed everything, seasoned it all up, sauteed it in lard, and then cooked 2 packets of ramen noodles, strained them, put them in with all the steak and veggies, and just put in butter, the 2 seasoning packets, and soy sauce and Dijon mustard. And I mixed it up and sauteed it all. And I put it in a bowl and I was like, sorry, honey, this is what we got. And I'm sitting in the back room here and I just get a text. And she goes, what did you make? This might be the most amazing thing you've ever made. And I'm like, are you serious? I consider myself a pretty good cook.
Right.
And I made you ramen noodles with old steak. And you said it's the best thing I've ever made.
Well, it's either low standards, you did a good job.
Exactly. But then I ate it and I was like, oh, this is really good.
Yep. Sometimes you just hit on some shit like that. And it's never when you actually thought to pay attention to the amounts you used, or even have it in the back of your mind of I might want to do this again. You're just throwing shit together. Then you sit back and question, can I make that again if I tried? Not sure.
I actually thought about doing that. I'm like, I need to make that again.
Yep.
But she looks at me and she goes, why was that so good? And I'm like, because it was just full of butter, fat, and salt.
Yeah. It's the best thing.
Of course it was delicious.
It's everything I cook is so ridiculously high fat. Of course it tastes good.
Right.
Hell, I had what did I have earlier? That it was rice. It was fried rice, but I mean it had all of the leftover drippings from a pound of bacon that was cooked and added to it, plus a stick of butter and some eggs. And I'm like, I mean, there's grease falling off the fork while you're eating this. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to be freaking hungry later today.
No, I make green beans at Christmas that it's literally 1.5 pounds of bacon and then some green beans. They're glistening in the pan. Yeah. They're so greasy. They're so good.
It's because you actually cook like a Southerner. That's
yeah, it's weird. I do. I cook very Southern.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've always kind of cooked that way. I've always kind of cooked that way. And then when I moved down here, especially when I started helping out on the barbecue side of multiple places I worked at, because it'd always be they've got the little service case and they've got the little grocery store and they've got the little deli that does barbecue. So I always end up doing all of them, of course. And Yeah, so I started diving really hard into the Southern cooking, and I'm like, wow, this is just like a slightly more refined version of the way I cook normally. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I definitely take 98% of my, like, what am I going to cook from, like, Southern dishes and stuff.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's hard to beat when it comes to just meat. It's hard to beat Brazilian, like Tex-Mex and
Yeah.
Cajun. I mean, that's just there's good cooking all through the South, but those three are like the gold standard of where everything comes from.
Yeah, like my sister's Christmas present to me every year, because she lives in New Orleans, is she just brings me up like 5 canisters of Tony Chachere's. Like, she's just like, here you go.
That's right. I still need to get you some Cajun seasoning. Need to whip up a batch. That's right. We were talking about that a while back, but had so many irons in the fire. We were talking about it back during deer season. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's crazy. Oh, I thought about deer season the other day, and it gave me the shakes. I was like, no, it's coming. It's coming.
No, already. No, we got a while yet. We got a while. Still time. Let's see here. Shit. Anybody got any other questions or any thoughts or whatnot? I may close in the recording after a bit here. We'll see, but let me check on comments over here. See if there's anything new. Lisa said, yeah, it sucks to take a loss, but sometimes it's the ethical choice. They end up going back to the earth, continuing the life cycle. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, even if it is a loss, it's feeding something, whether it's us or not. It sucks to lose it, but it sucks a lot worse to get like food poisoning. So,
right.
Man. So what you got coming up, Kyle? I know you were talking about doing rabbits on your next show, but you got anything fun coming up video wise?
This is going to be a little bit of a lighter week. I brought the tripod out today, and then about halfway through the day, I was like, there's no way I'm filming any of the rest of today.
I'm too done.
Yeah. No, I was going to do like a more in-depth chuck breakdown, because I think that's what I'm going to do now on the shop side, because the only animal I haven't like slaughtered and broke down is sheep and goats, which will be coming at some point. So I think I'm just going to go through beef and like break down each individual primal, like not time lapsed. Like,
right.
This is what you do here. This is how I do this. So that'll more than likely be coming up. And then I think I'm going to film getting the cows out to the big pasture.
Yeah.
And just kind of do like another farm walkthrough, because some stuff has changed and a bunch of stuff's been moved around since the last one I did. So I think I'm just going to intermediately just keep posting those of just like, hey, like, in case you haven't watched like all of the videos, this is what's been going on here, kind of thing. So going to do one of those. So
yeah.
And then that massive pig pasture, that's haunting me.
Oh, the massive pig pasture. Sounds like fun.
I think it's like 3 acres that is going to be all woven wired and with electric. With a catch pen.
I don't envy you. I don't.
That's a project. That is a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But at least you're like a weird nihilist, and you like suffering. As a masochist, that's right. You are a fencing masochist.
I love it.
I
love it
fencing work
so much.
And I'm like, yeah, I dread it. I hate it. I hate every bit of it.
I love it. There's something about it, because it's like when I'm on it, and it is probably because I'm married with 2 kids too, that it's like I have to go build this fence.
So it's your excuse to get out of the house
alone for 8 hours.
It's your escape. Okay, I got you. It's right. The lesser of 2 sufferings. Okay.
I would rather be covered in dirt, sweating, probably dehydrated, than have to explain why water is wet some days.
That sounds kind of like having 2 young girls, is being covered in sweat, covered in dirt, and dehydrated most of the time. I mean, isn't it the same thing, just in different places?
No, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Like, so my baseline is just hell. So it's like, oh, I get to go outside and listen to a bunch of podcasts and build a fence. Okay.
Oh yeah, great.
do
Right.
that.
You're like, yeah, no, I came from hell. A Nazi freaking prison camp actually doesn't sound that bad to me. Let's go. Let's go build
Right.
some fence. You know.
Like, do you want me to do it with a weight vest? Because I will. Like, I'll add
Man,
that.
I'm glad I waited till the end of the podcast to actually say that, just in case they want to try to kick me off of all the platforms. Sometimes I forget how we're recording this shit. Oh,
no, this is going
man.
out live.
Wait, no way, yeah.
Yeah, no. But once it's one of those things, I know once it's done, it'll all be worth it.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely worth
I'm
it.
just dreading. I'm just because the next step is for me to reel in all of the electric line that's already out on a 4-strand pasture.
Lisa just said her damn pig screwed up the woven wire fence. Now they just crawl under it.
I never run woven wire without electric as well.
Yeah, I would definitely run electric, and I would actually really consider, and this is just me, now it'd be expensive as shit. And it's probably not going to work very well on larger runs. It'd be more of like small runs. But you ever see like they do on some of these really heavy duty dog kennels where they'll take some of that steel cable and they run a tension wire around the bottom, where it's basically just
I've seen that.
Yeah, ratchet it in and
like
it makes it a lot harder to push that wire up.
Right. Yeah, if you're only doing like 2 pigs,
yeah,
you can get away with like a small setup.
Yeah,
you can
but if you're trying to do that many acres,
6-foot-long hog panels, that it's like as soon as you put those in the ground, it's gonna be tough to move those.
Yeah,
but when not like, I just don't trust them. So
I don't blame you. I've had pigs get out of those.
The electric is what is keeping them in. The woven wire is just added security.
Oh yeah,
we have a power outage or something, and someone's like, one of them's an asshole and just wants to they're still gonna have to fight.
One of them gets mad and like suplexes the other one into the fence, and they don't care about the wire at that point in that moment. You know, I've seen this happen.
Exactly.
I've seen them take down a whole electric fence setup because one pig threw another pig into the electric fence.
Right. No, it's crazy. But, yeah, I know once it's all done, it'll be worth it because I also just mentally added the catch pen setup that I'm going to build at the entrance. But I'm like, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And it'll never happen, and I'll be cursing myself. Yeah. Because we're going to be running 10 pigs in there this year. And then probably another 10 or so next year, because we're going to have 2 litters at the same time, because I'm insane. 2 litters of different ages.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be something.
But it happens. That's you don't do anything halfway.
No, I never do. But we also had to separate our boar out because he put a big old hole in the side of our gill. So didn't seem to phase her one bit, though.
No,
I could stick my whole finger in it, and she just didn't even flinch.
Pigs are tough. Pigs are they're just bulletproof, man.
Just soaked down with the iodine spray and just was like, all right, Jesus, take the wheel.
Go.
The rest of your pregnancy goes well.
I'm sure she'll be fine. Pigs seem to shrug off so much.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, all right. Well, I'm probably going to at least stop the recording side so I can get the audio side uploaded here in the background. But I'm going to leave the nest open and we can all bullshit for as long as we want to. But everybody, thanks for stopping in for episode 48. Again, be sure to check out. I'll probably run a nest, like I said, sometime later this week. It'll probably be closer to like Friday before I have an evening to do so. But then if I do that, that'll make next Tuesday, episode 50, which is the big giveaway episode. So be sure to tune in because the majority of giveaways are going to be live. Like I said earlier on the show, though, if you do go to renegadebutcher.com, sign up for the email list. I am going to run one separate drawing just for folks that sign up this week. So that'll be a new little bit of incentive there for some folks. But that said, thanks for tuning in to the Renegade Butcher Show. Check all this stuff out. If you need to get a hold of me, you can find me on Nostr and all the other places at Renegade Butcher. And we will catch you guys all later. And we're stopping the recordings now. Ending broadcast maybe.